The story of the deceit and denial in ancient Egypt, power and sexuality. Once upon a time, in the earliest days of ancient Egypt, a new era was being birthed, based upon the principles of beauty, sensuality, and a passionate celebration of the sacred and magical arts. Egypt was fast becoming a place where highly advanced souls were exploring the world of magic, alchemy, and spiritual awareness. It was a time of wondrous discovery, and the introduction of new ideas regarding astronomy, cosmology, and how to marry sexuality with spirituality. This was a time in Earth's history when the energies were naturally moving into a more feminine polarity. However, this was the first time humankind had experienced one of these earthly cycles move into the feminine principle. Little did they know that the shift from one polarity to the other was a natural and harmonious wave of energy that contained the opportunity to know and embody the divine, feminine principles, to know the truth of the goddess and the laws of her universe. Within Egypt, men and women who leaned more toward the feminine principle were entering a phase of development that was truly uncharted. There seemed to be a tremendous evolutionary spirit soaring through the realms of mystery and magic, and the spiritual and sexual ways of expressing this energy within a celebration of the body. This was manifesting as new forms of dance, performance, bodily decoration, and dress, as well as the creation of various magical objects, potions, ointments, and oils. Inner fire fueled them, sleep and food forgotten, or do anything else, as their passionate appetite for magical experiences and the ability to be able to harness the powers of the universe reached an all-time high. It was as if these people had tapped into a new power that the rest of Egypt had yet to discover. They became Egypt's priests, speaking for the land. The priests used the Great Pyramid on the Giza Plateau as their spiritual headquarters, while the priestesses took the domain of the Isis Pyramid as their temple space. Because this was a time in history where the feminine principle was becoming more dominant, there was an inclination to share and reveal the processes of this spiritual abundance so that its prosperity could flood the land. Soon, the whole of ancient Egypt was working with the feminine spirit by using various forms of ritualistic magic and ceremony. Almost overnight, Egypt became a legendary, exotic, and mystical land that thrived with incredible abundance and celebration. As time passed, this feminine spirit began to naturally become stronger and stronger. The priestesses wove through the crowds, drenched in finery, as they trailed wafts of erotic enticement behind them. In small pockets of the masculine community, voices began to express some concerns that the priestesses were reaching dizzying heights with their magical abilities, and that perhaps it was not wise for women to have so much power. In some respects, this was true, for indeed, these high priestesses seemed to be filled with an otherworldly glow, as their pure sexual attraction became uncomfortably seductive to some. Priestesses' beauty and love disarmed challengers. This heightened attraction, although incredibly enticing and mesmerizing, it was beginning to be hated, loathed, and seen with the eyes of suspicion. The masculine was unable to hold or fully embody his energy when in the presence of a priestess, because he was immediately disarmed and rendered impotent. Word got back to the priests of ancient Egypt that the masculine spirit of Egypt was growing impatient and that action needed to be taken. Within the walls of the Great Pyramid, voices spoke of the same unrest within the magical worlds and how it was now time to address these issues. They couldn't understand why they could not reach the same magnificent outcomes as the priestesses when they too were working with the same magical principles and laws of alchemy. Male competitive spirit had been born, and along with it waves of resentment were building. More time passed, as the priests looked on with suspicious eyes and growing concerns. Secret meetings were happening inside the Great Pyramid, where the masculine gathered and discussed the various ways in which they could take down the power of the feminine. One of the ways in which the priests and priestesses worked was a twice-daily sacred ceremony that happened every sunrise and sunset. At these times, a priest and priestess would come together in the third pyramid, that we can still see, in the Giza Plateau, and perform sacred union. This was a form of sex magic that involved the invoking and embodying of the feminine and masculine oversouls of the enigmatic Isis and Osiris. Two pure beings of ancient Egypt, Isis and Osiris, had originally led Egypt to its glorious heights of magic and power, and had now passed from the physical world to continue on their soul adventure in the spiritual world. Priestly rites merged spirit, sex, in glory. It was performed with the highest of intention, as a way of radiating the energy of sacred union into the land and its people, enhancing fertility and harmony. However, the disgruntled priests now had developed a plan through which they could distort and control the energies of sacred union and harness its potency for an altogether different agenda. On one particular morning, a priest walked across the Giza Plateau with the intention to take from the priestess the sacred and vital energy stored within her womb. As he entered the sacred union pyramid, the priestess immediately sensed a grave distortion and change in energy from within her masculine counterpart and adjusted accordingly. All this happened within nanoseconds. What she had done was to swiftly move her energy from within her womb up into her third eye for safekeeping, leaving her womb empty, barren from her sumptuous bounty. The priest also recognized that a powerful alteration in energy had occurred, but neither of them said anything. That morning, under instruction of the head priest, he had partaken of a similar movement of energy. He had moved all this energy from his third eye as a response to the growing convictions that the priestesses were attempting to control them in some way through their thought forms and consciousness. He had sunk all his essence down into his groin, into his sexuality, with the desire and intention to steal the feminine essence from within the womb of the priestess. They faced one another, knowing deep inside that a hidden agenda was at play, yet both of them denied that they contained a secret. Both of them denied knowledge of such deceit. The priest found an empty womb despite the priestess appearing to be present and loving. She had purposely withheld and mystified the process by overcloaking her energies to appear normal and open. She held the intention of looking inside his consciousness to find out why this was happening. She wanted to see and read his suspicions. She wanted to read his mind. When she peered inside him, she discovered emptiness, because he had done the same act. He had moved his energy from his third eye into the groin. He too was hiding from her, and appearing present and open. Checkmate. Their suspicion and fear of one another deepened, as it now seemed that it was imperative to protect themselves from one another in the sexual act. It was here, in this moment, that the energies of deceit and denial entered the sacred union ceremonial process, which foolishly leaked into the ritualistic prayer to emanate throughout the land and its entire people. Within days, the collective consciousness had begun to receive the distorted energies of the polluted sacred act. Twice daily, different priests and priestesses would meet, after being given the instruction to move their energies and to withhold their vital essence from the ceremony. And twice daily, this energy would be spread throughout the whole of Egypt. It was only a matter of time before the great downfall would occur and bring Egypt to its knees. For the healing and transformation of this soul wound, it is important to enter into the story and feel how it touches you and unfolds inside you. This wound lives within the boundaries of your sexuality power in both men and women. It is the guardian that stands before you, suggesting the need and desire to protect yourself from being used or controlled within the sexual act, and to protect yourself from being in relationship. This is the wound and suspicious fear of the dark feminine. It is important to remember that women can feel this wound if their man has a strong feminine side. The fear is that he will abuse his sexual power and art of seduction. As you move toward full sexual union, this will be the main wound that resurfaces. There will be myriad reasons why you believe it is wise to protect yourself, to not share your full sexuality, to not give the whole of yourself. Be aware that the flavor of this wound orbits around deceit, suspicion, and the ability to even deny its existence when you both, or one of you, knows that it is happening. Fear of sexuality and its wild, chaotic nature, and/or fear of a strong feminine energy, are the ramifications of this wound. Like, share, subscribe. One love.